Alright, let's check out the massive bomb cyclone that has been bringing exciting weather to the Northeast over the last couple days and continuing throughout the day today. Before we get started, I will say I make these forecast videos every single morning, so if you enjoy following the weather or you end up enjoying this video, you can subscribe to my channel. Alright, diving into my screen here, this is showing the bomb cyclone that I've been following over the last couple of days, and it's been really interesting to follow. At first, it came off of the southeast. It was moving into the Atlantic. It looked like it was just going to continue to move off into the Atlantic, and then all of a sudden it took a turn and has continued to push closer and closer to the Northeast over the last couple of days. You can see right now it's really close to the Northeast at this point, actually closer than original forecast models were saying it would be. So a few things I want you to notice on this map. One, just how close this low is to the Northeast. Right off of the coast of really New Jersey, Massachusetts, much closer than originally predicted. The other thing, how strong this system is. You can tell it's extremely strong by how low the low is, 987 millibars. At one point it got down to, I believe, 971. I think that was the lowest number I saw with this system. So the power is there. These wind gusts, these purple colors show maybe 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts, maybe even reaching 70s in some places. The one other thing I want you to notice on this map is how warm the temperatures are. You can see mid 40s in New York, mid 40s in Maine, even high 40s in Vermont, New Hampshire. So that's really what's driving the precipitation type for this. We're getting a lot more rain than snow with this system. But again, pretty awesome storm to follow. You don't often see a storm move off into the Atlantic and then push back. So it's been very interesting to follow this one. But again, the big story with this one is the winds. The winds are just extremely strong, and that's going to be pushing in through the Northeast throughout the day today. There's also a ton of rain moving into the Northeast. You can see early this morning at about 1 a.m., really some of those heavy rainfall rates started to show up in Maine, all of Vermont, all of New Hampshire, all of Massachusetts, parts of eastern New York, really getting rain with this one. And kind of the bummer about this is it feels like it's really cold, but it's not cold enough to be getting snow. As you saw, most places were in the 40s, mid 40s, high 40s, but because the winds are so strong, they're about 50 to 60 miles per hour at sometimes, it feels really cold. So even though it's 45 degrees, it might feel like it's 35 degrees, but it's not actually cold enough to be getting snow. So really just not a good storm. It's on the bright side, it's probably keeping people inside, which is good when it comes to the coronavirus. You want a storm like this to move through and keep everybody indoors, not meeting in a bunch of crowds. By 7 a.m. this morning, you can see this low actually moves back into our screen. That's the weird thing about this. It just keeps moving closer and closer to Massachusetts and has continued to push west even longer than originally thought it would. So you can see heavy rainfall rates building into Massachusetts at about 7 a.m. this morning. This, basically the entire coast of Massachusetts has been the place to follow with this storm. Just how the coastline is oriented and how these winds are coming around the low. Think about a low, it's counterclockwise circulation. So you have winds pushing right on shore of Massachusetts. What that's doing, you get 60 mile per hour wind gusts that actually pushes the water onto the coast. When you combine that with a high tide, you can get some coastal flooding, and we've actually seen that in some locations. To just add insult to injury, so you're getting flooding from just water being pushed on the shore, you're also getting heavy rain in this exact location where we see the coastal flooding from the winds and the high tides. They're also picking up maybe 1 inch or 2 inches of rain. So really that's been the location to follow throughout this storm. And as we move through to 1 p.m. on Friday, you can see this low finally starts to move south a little bit. It's really been hanging out for the last 2 days, so it's kind of encouraging to see it finally moving out. You guys can get a break from the rain and the strong winds. But as you can see, by 1 p.m. Friday, you haven't got a break from the rain yet. Parts of western Maine still picking up some rain. Majority of eastern Massachusetts getting rain. Still heavy rates along that coastal Massachusetts that we were just talking about, and some heavy rates building into New York as well. By about 7 p.m. tonight, you can see that low has really started to push even a little farther south, starting to weaken a little bit up to 988 millibars. Still pretty low, but not as low as the 971 we saw earlier with the storm when we were clocking wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour. Something you'll notice though, 7 p.m. tonight, Massachusetts still getting rain. That's where the accumulated precip is going to be the heaviest, basically throughout all of eastern Massachusetts. And you can see parts of southern Vermont, southern New Hampshire, and then select locations in New York continuing to pick up rain associated with this system throughout basically all day today. We move forward again. Massachusetts still in rain, but now that low has moved out of our screen. And then by about 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, the system is gone and we are no longer picking up rain in the Northeast associated with this bomb cyclone that has really been driving the weather for the last few days for the Northeast. So diving here, there's really two things I want you to notice with this one. One, how warm these temperatures are. That is what's causing all this precip to fall as rain instead of snow. If we had this giant blob of cold Arctic air that's been bringing some great snow to North and South Dakota, I want to say South Dakota had record snowfall yesterday. If we had that cold air over the Northeast, this could have been a massive snowstorm. I'm talking 2 to 3 feet of snow. But as it turns out, you'll notice these warm temperatures go all the way up into Canada. So the Northeast isn't even close to that cold Arctic air. And that basically is true throughout the entire life cycle of this storm. You'll see it's gone by about, mid-Saturday, and at that point the Northeast is still extremely warm, much too warm to be getting any real snowfall with this one. The other thing I want you to notice, clicking back here, is why the winds are so strong with this system, and it actually has to do with the pressure gradient between this massive high that we see in Canada and then the super low associated with this bomb cyclone. That pressure gradient, basically what that means is the atmosphere is almost sloped like a hill, and then winds are just, the steeper the slope, the faster those winds are going to go. And as it turns out, that's an extremely high, and this is an extremely low. I think that high actually broke a high pressure record in northern Canada. So what that does, basically steep atmospheric slope, you get strong winds. So even along the coast, where you pretty much expect these winds to be strong because you're closer to the low, that's where you're getting 50, 60 mile per hour gusts. But then even inland, where you're farther away from this low, you're still getting 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts, and it's because of that pressure gradient. So like I said, temperatures very warm, mid 40s, even up into the 50s for some places, mostly making your precipitation rain in the Northeast. I wish it could have been one last massive snowstorm for you guys, but it's in my gut feeling that winter is over for the Northeast. I'm sorry to break that news to all you snow lovers out there, but you are picking up some good rain with this one. You can see that eastern part of Massachusetts, especially along the coast that we've been talking about so much in this video, picking up over an inch of rain. This says an inch of rain. I'm thinking it could go as high as 2 inches in some places, and then that's also combined with some of the coastal flooding that we're going to get from those winds pushing water on shore. You can see New York more in the 0.2 to 0.5 inches of rain. That's mostly because we just had little select locations of light rain throughout this entire system. There was never really one place where we saw just a torrential downpour. You can see northern Vermont, maybe 0.2 inches of rain, whereas southern parts could be getting an inch in some places. New Hampshire, pretty much the same story. Lighter rains up north, down south, maybe an inch. And then very southern Maine, maybe getting an inch and a half of rain with this one. Again, bulk of it hidden eastern Massachusetts. There is a little bit of snow with this one, so it is interesting to see where that snow could fall. Some of the higher elevation places and farther north, up into Vermont and New Hampshire, did pick up a little bit of snow with this one and could continue to pick up a little more snow throughout the day today. You see Vermont basically in that 1 to 3 inch range, and then a select location in New Hampshire picking up maybe 6 to 8 inches of snow with this one. So maybe that's your last final snowstorm for the season. And, even one select location in New York got maybe half an inch of snow with this one. This system is basically moving off today, and then we have some interesting things lined up for next week. So be sure to subscribe to my channel if you want to stay updated with all the major weather events that happen across the country. And by the time you're watching this video, I've maybe already done another forecast video, so you can check out my forecast playlist. And if you enjoyed this, you could subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.